Washington, President Donald Trump is consulting with advisors about whom he should tap as his next chief of staff, with John Kelly expected to depart the administration as early as this summer, possibly even this week, according to people familiar with the matter. The two frontrunners for the job, the People said, are Nick Ayers, who serves as Chief of Staff to Vice President Mike Pence, and Mick Mulvaney, who heads the Office of Management and Budget as well as serving as Acting Director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Plans for Mr. Kelly's exit aren't yet final, the People said. Aides have fallen out of favor with the president before and yet held on to jobs longer than anticipated as Mr. Trump gets more feedback on his team's performance. The White House, asked about Mr. Kelly's status, initially declined to comment. Later Thursday, after the Wall Street Journal report appeared online, White House spokeswoman Lindsay Walters said the president called the article fake news and that Mr. Kelly said this was news to him. Related, Mr. Kelly has told colleagues he doesn't intend to stay in the role beyond his one-year mark, which is July 31. People close to the White House said that departure could come as early as this week or could follow the president's mid-July trip to Europe, where he will attend the North Atlantic Treaty Organization summit and meet with the leaders of the UK and Russia. Newsletter sign-up. One person close to the White House said Mr. Kelly doesn't believe he can serve Mr. Trump well because the president has stopped listening to him. This person said Mr. Kelly no longer likes the job and doesn't believe the president genuinely wants a chief of staff. A complication is the Supreme Court vacancy created by Anthony Kennedy's departure. Mr. Trump may need Mr. Kelly to help recruit, vet and shepherd through a Supreme Court nomination, this person said. Mr. Kelly, a 68-year-old retired Marine general, came into the job with a mandate to impose discipline in a West Wing where many aides had easy access to the president and felt free to pursue policy initiatives that hadn't been fully vetted. But in recent months, Mr. Kelly's grip on West Wing operations has loosened. Some senior aides now report directly to the president, a departure from an early practice in which Mr. Kelly was the principal gatekeeper to the Oval Office. The president has asked several advisors what they think about Mr. Kelly and how long he should stay in the role. Mr. Kelly's predecessor, Reince Priebus, stayed on the job for 6 months. Mr. Kelly traveled with the president this week to North Dakota and Wisconsin for a campaign rally, a fundraiser and a visit to a technology plant. Some veterans of the Trump White House say the president chafes under the sort of hierarchical structure that Mr. Kelly sought to create, preferring to consult with friends and associates on his own timetable. Steve Bannon, a former White House chief strategist, said that when Mr. Trump ran his real estate business from Trump Tower, he had no hierarchy and a half-dozen people reporting to him directly. It's been very obvious for the last 4 or 5 months that President Trump has run the White House with an organizational structure that has left Kelly in a ceremonial position, Mr. Bannon said. That's the structure he's most comfortable with and it's coincided with some of his greatest accomplishments on trade, North Korea, and the economy. I would anticipate with Kelly's departure that he would go with a structure where a chief of staff would only play a ceremonial role, if he appoints one at all, Mr. Bannon added. That's the structure that fits him best. The departure of Mr. Kelly, who served as Mr. Trump's Homeland Security Secretary before taking over for Mr. Priebus, could trigger more resignations as people loyal to him leave. That would accelerate what has already been record turnover at senior levels of the White House. A year and a half into his presidency, Mr. Trump has presided over the highest turnover of any recent president at a comparable point, according to Martha Joint Kumar, Emeritus Professor of Political Science at Towson University. Some 61% of people who held the rank of assistant to the president under Mr. Trump have left the job, versus 14% under Barack Obama, 5% for George W. Bush, 42% for Bill Clinton, 19% for George H. W. Bush and 29% for Ronald Reagan at this point in their administrations, according to Ms. Kumar's research. The discussions about a new chief of staff come as Mr. Trump prepares to fill another key administration role, communications advisor. The president on Wednesday met with former Fox News executive Bill Shine about heading that department, a job that has been left empty since longtime Trump aide Hope Hicks left the administration in